we're gonna make these biscuits. And for all biscuits, you're gonna find that they call you, why can I not word today? I feel like this is just the running joke of this channel. Janan's words don't word. Probably because I keep getting interrupted every 15 seconds by a toddler. Yeah.
Mom, no, you want the toy right there?
Okay. Here's the intro. We'll just go with it. Here's the opener. Welcome back to Jonestead Farm. It is a very chilly, wintry evening here. Let's make some chicken noodle soup. We have some kids that got a little bit of coughs, a little bit of colds, and I just feel like God gave us food for a reason, and we can use it to heal our bodies. So typically when my kids are starting to feel kind of crummy is when I go, hey, let's make some chicken noodle soup. I am going to walk you through that. This video will be pretty simple and straightforward for someone to take their next step in knowing what's in your food and cooking from scratch. I will not be making my noodles from scratch tonight because, well, my chickens aren't laying very well right now because it's cold outside and we have less light, of course. So yeah, that's the story. I'll be making my own noodles in the spring when I'm running in eggs and don't know what to do with them, you know. But right now I'm going to be using some dried noodles that I have in my pantry. But we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is still from scratch, delicious cooking, made from my soul. So let's get started on some delicious chicken noodle soup. The really fun thing about this recipe is that it is wicked versatile. So you can use it for multiple things. Like I typically make this base, which is like the trifecta of deliciousness, which is carrots, onions, and celery. And then some homemade chicken broth and, my own chicken. And then you can take that and turn it into whatever you really kind of want with that. So I'm doing soup tonight because it's very cold. But we have on our regular rotation. It's kind of like chicken pot pie, but instead it's drop biscuits on top. Cheddar, thyme drop biscuits, also delicious, amazing. So you can really take this base. It can also be the filling of a chicken pot pie if you want to make a pie crust and turn it to chicken pot pie. So this is kind of a versatile recipe. You can kind of put in your arsenal and then use it for multiple recipes. And I prefer to do that with pretty much everything. Once you really grasp cooking from scratch, you realize that you can make a whole lot of things very simply. So let's get started. So I have already stuck 2 chickens in a pot. So let's talk about that. I've got my pot here and I just took 2 of our chickens and I stuck them in a pot of water. I threw in a bunch of salt, pepper, and thyme. That's all that's in this. And then you can also see our chickens have a nice fat content to them. These are our farm fresh chickens. These guys were a little small, so I like to use these specifically for soups and stews because I really am trying to get the collagen out of those bones. So I'm going to grab my carrots, my onions, my celery, start chopping. I'm going to pull my chickens out of that broth so that they can cool off a little bit so I can actually handle them. And we're going to pull a chicken. I realize some of this stuff might be heckin' basic to some people, okay? But everybody starts somewhere, and that's where I want you to feel comfortable on this channel because we all start somewhere. And if you don't know how to pull a chicken, that sounds ridiculous to some people. You might be like, girl, duh, everybody knows how to pull a chicken. Actually, everybody doesn't know how to pull a chicken. And you know why? Because I'm an 80s baby. where we had everything prepackaged for us, right? Like we had Lunchables every day for lunch, and we had, you know, cereal for breakfast every morning. And these are things that got lost in my generation and the generation before me. So they'll come at me in my comments. I love y'all. Not everybody knows how to pull a chicken. All right, we're gonna grab these chickens out of here. And this part gets kind of tricky because sometimes they don't want to come out in all of the pieces. So we're just gonna go with it. These were little guys, little chickens. These guys are staying together pretty well. Normally they just like fall apart. Yeah, see? They're just gonna like they just felt they knew they were gonna be on camera, so they wanted to stay together for the shot, but normally that's not how this works. Okay. Normally they're falling apart and I'm having to strain out pieces of chicken. All right, so you can see this broth has some beautiful fat on the top. This is not oil. This is literally the fat that rendered off this chicken. And then you obviously see some of the whatever on the side. I'm gonna strain this out. If this icks you out, I promise you this is how your food is made. You just don't know it. So my kids are feeling kind of crummy right now. They're pushing through, but you'll hear coughs in the background. And food heals your body. So that's what we're making tonight. We're making medicine that tastes delicious, okay? This guy's been hanging out in my fridge a little while. So we're gonna peel it, because you wanna eat that? She's like, no, I do not. So something that I didn't know, and I'm gonna show you. Let's do this together. Something I didn't know when I first learned to cook, you know, I'd always just peel straight down, okay? No, you don't have to do that. You can literally just go back and forth. Much more efficient. And you get done way faster. Listen, if you find your carrots like this is totally fine. You can still eat this. Don't freak out. Don't throw it away. It's not bad, okay? It's still good. It has life. We're just really conditioned in the United States to not eat food that doesn't look perfect. And if the bugs don't want to eat it, I don't want to eat it. That's kind of my rule of thumb. You don't need to sit and watch me peel a bunch of carrots. Let me get my carrots cut up, and we'll come back here and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, I'm gonna get myself some good grass-fed butter. I am wholeheartedly believe that you do with what you have, but I am also a believer that good quality ingredients equals good quality food. So 80-20 always, but if you can splurge on some good grass-fed butter, do it. I really love, for my budget, I really love Costco's grass-fed butter if you can't make your own. One day I'll have a dairy animal on my farm and hopefully I'll be swimming in butter. But today is not that day. So today we are using some grass-fed butter. You can also use, you know, what other fat you would like to use, but personally I believe that butter is the way to the soul. So I'm gonna cut off a big chunk of this. This is probably 4 tablespoons. All right. Get my heat turned on. Get this I'm gonna go ahead and get this melted down. Then I'm gonna throw in my pot of amazingness, and I'm gonna tell you a story. One more thing I forgot. I added some garlic. I have some cut up garlic already. Isn't ideally the best way to do it, but I'm out of garlic, and this is what I had in my pantry, so this is what we're using. So we got our minced up garlic. I'm gonna get this all happy together, sauteed together, and then I will throw in these veggies. I heard this and it made me laugh so hard. This woman was specifically talking about the dinner dilemma. And if you're the person in your home that takes care of the food, you're gonna know exactly what I mean. It's 5 o'clock and you're like, holy cow, I gotta make dinner and I don't even know what I'm gonna make. She said, chop up an onion and get it in a pan first thing before your spouse gets home. And they're gonna walk in and they're gonna smell onion cooking and they're like, oh my goodness, what are you making? Like, oh, you'll see. You still may have no idea where you're going with it, but just throw some butter and an onion in a pan. It'll smell like heaven and you'll get inspiration. That's what we do here. We throw butter in a pan and we get inspiration because butter is life. All right, we got this butter deliciousness going. We're gonna throw in our veg. This is gonna crowd this pan quite a bit, so I'm probably gonna do half of it. And don't use this on this. This will scratch this. Okay, so I'm gonna grab myself a spatula of some sort to toss this in the butter. I'm gonna go ahead, shove in the rest of my ingredients just so that I can get this going. But just know, this is probably double of what a normal sized family would want. Now, if you're not a noodle person and you just want a chicken soup, you could totally add in rice in place of that, or you could just leave the carb, that like starchy component completely out. You could also do chicken vegetable type soup if you wanted, throw in potato if you'd like. But if you want to leave that carb, that extra carb component out, you easily could just double this side, this part of it, for a normal recipe and have one pulled chicken in here and then just fill it up with water and broth, and that would be delicious. I like the noodle component, so that's what I do here. But this is kind of one of those things that you can just kind of make it what you want. All right, let's start pulling chickens while this right here turns into the delicious trifecta. I guess now it's a quad because it's got garlic in it. Say hi. Are you so happy? Are you eating a cracker? Do you have a good nap? We're trying to keep him healthy. When you got a toddler walking around hacking on people, you make chicken noodle soup, you know? So, okay, I'm gonna pull these chickens and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. You roll sleeves. All right. Again, you know me. I hate dishes. We're gonna reuse this pot. Gonna just put these. This guy. Oh, you so silly. You're so cute. I love that guy. My little baby Dave. He looks just like his daddy. Cute little fella. Okay, so I'm gonna take my chicken. I got me these are almost like Cornish chickens. They're very small. This year's, oh my goodness, this year's chickens were really small. So, well, honestly, some of them were, some of them weren't. If you want to bypass this whole situation where you're like, Janan, I don't want to touch a carcass of a bird, well, that might not be the right channel for you. I don't know, but we'll go with it. We'll just pretend like you said that, and that's fine. Go to Costco and get yourself some rotisserie chicken that's already been pulled. You can just omit everything that I'm getting ready to do right now and throw the chicken from Costco in this pot, okay? But I have to pull chickens because, well, we raise our own meat here. So I'm gonna pull the skin off because I don't want floppy skin in my soup. And then I'm just gonna start pulling chicken. So he's wildly adorable and highly distracting. So I'm gonna show you how to pull a chicken if you don't know, while stirring vegetables and entertaining your baby. Welcome to the Jones household. I pulled my skin off. I'm gonna actually just use this pot or this little pan as my pan that I'm gonna leave the remnants in. And I'm gonna make a round of chicken broth with it. So, just gonna take my chicken pieces, my meat, and pull it. So this is actually like a thigh and a drummy. So I'm gonna stick my meat in here. And I don't want any connective tissue in my soup. And I don't want any like chunks of cartilage, or I mean, I guess that's still kind of connective tissue, but I just want to try to make it as meat forward as possible. So I'm really just pulling the chicken off of these bones. I'm not going to be using this piece right here. It always has a lot of connective tissue in it, but it has a ton of collagen, so it makes really, really, really good broth. So he's just living his best life back there. This guy. Okay, so these are all bones for the most part and connective tissue. A little bit of meat over here. These chickens were so stinking tiny. Oh, it's funny. We had kind of a bout with our feed that we chose this past year, and then again, so this is like kind of, it's obviously very small, but you would pull the skin off. Okay, I'm not going to use that because I don't want rubbery chicken skin in my chicken noodle soup. I'm going to stick this in my scraps. Okay, and I'm just going to pull. This would be the thigh meat. I don't have it chopped up right now. I'm literally just sticking it in here in big pieces. I'll chop it in a minute. And then I'm pulling off all the meat, but leaving behind bone and connective tissue because I don't want that in my soup. Okay? So, pretty basic, pretty simple. But again, if you don't know what you don't know, and like, there should be no shame out there if you don't know something. I feel like this is the place you come if you want to learn something, because there's no shame here. Us hillbillies gotta stick together. I'm gonna use that line forever. I just think it's hilarious. Because by no means would I call myself a hillbilly, but apparently to the world we're hillbillies, and I just think it's super funny. We're very techie people. Are you a hillbilly? I'm going to pull this back. So this is the part that's always kind of weird. I'm gonna pull the wings off. They have hardly any meat on them when they're this small, but I'm just gonna pull them off to get them out of the way. And then I'm gonna pull the skin off, stick it in my pot, and then I'm gonna pull the back down and the ribs out. And I'm literally just gonna sit this down here for a second so I'm not putting bones in my good meat. You know, pull out the sternum and any of these rib pieces. This is where you use your hands to just kind of feel around, see if you got any bones. I'm not gonna throw these kind of weird pieces in my soup. I got the wishbone right here. I'll throw that out. The piece clavicle. All right. So I'm just checking these pieces. Buddy, you're so loud. All right. Checking these pieces, making sure everything feels right. Yep, no bones. Awesome. We're gonna take a stir right. These wings are so tiny, so there's not a lot of meat on them, but these are gonna make great chicken broth. So I definitely don't want to get rid of them. I want to keep them, but they have a ton of fat on the skin. So wings make the best broth, I feel like, and the backbones, of course. So now I'm going to kind of inspect this backbone. I'm going to look for any meat pieces. Because these chickens are so small, there's another piece of the wing, the wing. There's not a ton of meat to the back. Sometimes you'll find some meat on the back, but there's not a ton on these little birds. So I'm just going to let it go because I know it's going to be really good broth and I'm not that worried about it. All right, now we just do the same thing again. Okay, I'm almost done with this chicken, but I'm going to show you what we got going on here. So it's going to start getting some delicious little bits to it. And especially if you cook on cast iron, it just, dude, listen, if you don't have cast iron, start investing in it because it's so worth it. It does not need to be scary, I promise. It's so simple to take care of, and I just feel like it really does bring out the flavors of your food and is way less toxic for your body. If you're not there yet, don't worry. It's okay. I didn't get here overnight. I thrifted and saved my way here, okay? So like, don't take that as condemnation. But if you don't have one, get one if you can, because it makes a difference. All right, so this is getting really close to where I want it to be. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and turn my heat off while I finish this chicken because I don't want this butter to burn. And then I'll be right back. Do you ever sometimes question your life choices? Where you're like, I probably should have made this earlier in the day so I could eat it tonight because smelling this is making it that much more tempting. I really want to eat it right now. Let's talk about chicken for a second. as I finish this up. I feel like a lot of people get really wigged out by dark meat. And if you haven't tried a whole bird on your own, making it on your own, I really encourage you to do that, because especially in like a soup or a stew or a casserole or whatever, a chicken pot pie, that's where I like to throw my dark meat the most. I think we've been trained that it's white meat only kind of vibes. And the white meat is so good when it's cooked well, but it can be so dry. Chicken thighs are delicious if you cook them right and you get good quality ones. So don't sleep on the thighs, the chicken thighs. You know, they're really good. All right, so here's my pulled chicken, my baby chickens. So I'm just gonna kind of go in here and kind of separate these. So if you buy your chicken from the store and you don't want to, if you want to skip the cooking process for yourself, you totally can buy yourself some chicken broth too, because that's going to add a ton of flavor and a great medicinal properties. What are we doing back here, buddy? You mean crazy? He is so funny. This guy has grown up so much. I feel like you guys haven't seen him a lot lately, but he's such a big boy. Aren't ya? Are you such a big boy? I know, a big guy. All right, so I'm just pulling these apart, pulling these pieces kind of in from these big chunks to kind of just like more like bite-sized pieces. I don't want to shred it because nobody wants that texture in your soup. And you can chop it if you want. I find that mine just starts to fall apart anyway, so it's not that deep. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my deliciousness over here and make a roux. You ready? A basic roux is what creates the thickening part of anything. Okay, so if you don't know that, that's what this is. A gravy, if you want any kind of thickening to anything, you need a roux. But essentially, what you need is flour, fat, and a liquid. So I'm going to be adding about 1/4 of a cup of flour to mine. I'm going to turn my heat back on. And if I need to add more fat, I will. I think this is going to be a good amount. This is how you make a nice chicken pot pie filling, or like I said, the drop biscuit situation. Wish you could smell this. It smells so good. All right, so I'm going to let this cook down a little bit. This is where you cook the flour. You don't want the flour to taste floury. So you cook it down a little bit. Let all that fat absorb the flour. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my pot that had the chicken broth in it. Okay. And I'm going to strain this off in a cup, in a fine mesh strainer. And then I'm going to add this as my liquid to my my soup, because this is the deliciousness that the chickens were cooking in, and so I know it's got a ton of flavor sitting in this pot. So we're going to do that. All right, I got this chicken broth, and I'm going to strain it through here just to make sure I don't get chunks in it. Again, this is not meant to be like a thick gravy by any means, but I'm going to start off with this. I just kind of get this nice and happy and coated together. It just gives it a little bit of a better texture when you have a roux to it. This is also where you can deglaze your pan a little bit and get all the bits off the bottom. And it makes it delicious. All right. So now I'm going to throw in my chicken. Remember, mine is doubled right now, okay? So this is kind of my base. Like, remember I told you at the beginning, this is my chicken base where I can make it into anything I want. I can turn this into chicken pot pie. I can throw in more vegetables if I want and make this really delicious. This is also where if I want to make it that drop biscuit casserole, this is also where you can really throw in. I left these pieces really rustic because that's how I prefer my soup. So, you know, it'll break down as it cooks. You can chop it into little bits if you want. I don't like doing that because then it ends up really fine and kind of like shredded almost in soup, and I don't love it that way. I like it a thick soup. So this right here is kind of your base. where now I can go, okay, I'm going to turn this into chicken pot pie, or I'm going to turn this into a drop biscuit casserole. Or now I'm like, no, I'm going to turn this into soup. So where I'm going to go now is where you pause and you go, okay, this is soup now. So what I'm going to do from here is, let me give it a little splash of milk. It's probably about 1/4 of a cup, maybe. I don't use a ton of milk in it, but I just like the creaminess that it adds to it. This is also where you could do this for chicken pot pie. I do add a cream to it whenever I have it, or a milk. So delish. We use raw milk in our house, and so this has really good fat ratio. Just makes it delicious. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding all of this broth that I have, or as much as it'll fit in this pot. Again, I'm just pouring this in a fine mesh strainer to make sure I don't get any chunks or anything that I don't want in it. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is a little uncouth because I'm doing this second day. I've made my soup, and I'm just going to let this marinate together overnight in this pot. I'm going to put it in my fridge. You could stick this in your crock pot if you wanted. Remember, Shanann doesn't like dishes, so this is going to go in my fridge. I'm going to let it cool. And this is going to go in my fridge until tomorrow. And here's where you really amp up what you can do with your product. Okay, I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to set it aside. And now let's talk about how you use the whole bird. I'm going to stick this pot back on here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these chicken pieces that I just did, and I'm going to put them back in this pot. Okay, the skin and everything, all the pieces that you would have thrown out. And even the little, all of it, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this back up to the top with water, and I'm going to let it simmer overnight, okay? So,
Night-night, are you ready to go night-night already? There's no way. Are you so silly?
okay, so I'm going to let this bad boy sit in my fridge overnight. But I do want to make sure that I add some seasoning to it so that all those flavors can like marry together. Right now, all I have is just the butter and the seasoning that was on the chicken and that's cooked in the broth that I made. What I did was I just had salt, pepper, and thyme, some dried thyme. So let's get in here and let me show you what I'm going to put in this pot and get it kind of stirred up so it can kind of stew together overnight. Okay, so my favorite herbs to use in chicken noodle soup are pepper, salt, thyme, and rosemary. Okay, so I use my hands as a measurement. I can tell you that this part of my hand right here is about a tablespoon because I've measured it to be able to give people recipes. So I'm going to measure it just for you guys because I actually have no idea how much I usually put in here. I do it by sight. We're gonna go with that. So probably about 2 tablespoons. Again, I'm heavily seasoning this because I'm gonna be putting more broth in this and noodles. And your noodles will have no flavor if your broth isn't brothing. So I'm gonna put probably about 2 tablespoons of thyme. So I buy my herbs in bulk and it can actually save you quite a bit of money. Check out a Natural Grocers if there's one close to you because they sell their herbs at a wicked low price. All right, this is my salt. If you've never used mineral salt, Redmond's real mineral salt, it's beautiful and it's so good and I love it. I'm gonna heavily salt this. Remember, this looks like a lot of salt, but I promise you it needs a ton of salt. Also, remember I am heavily seasoning this because this is just kind of my base. All right, this is just my base. I'm going to be having a lot more liquid in this. This is just a fraction of the liquid that I'm going to be putting in this because I need to cook my noodles. And so this broth needs to be very delicious and very full of flavor so that my noodles don't taste bland. All right, this looks delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this and let it cool. And then tonight before I go to bed, I'm gonna put this in the fridge. There's a part that I forgot to tell you, and here's the reason why I did, because I'm highly distracted by all of the noises of my house. Okay, so the thing that I forgot to tell you is the reason why I'm not putting my noodles in tonight is because they get really mushy and gross, in my opinion, when they sit overnight for the first time you eat it. Because if you want leftovers, I'll obviously save them for leftovers and we'll eat them. But for the first night, I don't want to put my noodles in them because I want my noodles to be fresh and not like kind of, they break down pretty easy. And so that's why I don't put my noodles in first. So my noodles will go in tomorrow, whenever it is time to eat this. So, see you tomorrow. Okay, next morning, took you way less time to get here than me. We're gonna pull out my pot and then we're going to get this going. I'm gonna start it on a low heat just so I don't burn it. Well, a medium heat. I'm not gonna put it on high or anything. And then let's talk about this broth that's been simmering all night. So you can definitely tell, I don't know if you've watched my other videos or my other video on broth, but you can see the fat in this is not nearly as much. This is definitely more of a broth than a stock. And it definitely doesn't have as much fat and collagen in it as my video from turkey broth, because we didn't use the feet and the necks. We used the just the carcass. And so a lot of that great collagen and higher fat content shows up in the necks and the feet. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a spoon and I'm gonna get this stirred up and get it turned on. You can see it broke up that fat layer. Everything looks yum. So I'm gonna get this warmed up. It's 8 in the morning right now, so I have a few hours for this to simmer and get amazing. I'm gonna make some breakfast. I'll be back. I'll get this soup finished up. Also, we're gonna make some cheddar thyme drop biscuits to go with it. So, okay, true confession time. Thought I had egg noodles. Don't have egg noodles, but I have some organic pasta, so I'm gonna throw that in there. I've definitely done this in a pinch when I don't have something, but I must have used it last time I made chicken noodle soup. I didn't replace some. So I'm gonna use some noodles, throw it in here. It's gonna be the same vibe. Actually, this might withstand leftovers a little bit better too, and probably add a little bit more flavor because these noodles are a little bit thicker, and so they will absorb more of the broth. So they'll have a little bit more flavor. So my mistake is probably a winning move. Let's get these put in the pot. Okay, so I probably threw in about 2.5 to 3 cups of pasta. And then I'm gonna cover this up. I'm gonna turn it back on low, well, medium, so that it can boil and cook these noodles. Okay, I got my people out the door for church. And now we're going to check the soup. Take a peek at this. Yes, ma'am. That looks delicious. All right, so you can definitely see how these noodles have taken up a lot of this space. I'm actually kind of not mad about this though. I feel like this is looking really good. So we're gonna call that done. And I will add broth as need be. This first round will just be a little bit thicker. I'm not mad about it. I like a really thick stew-like soup. So I'm not mad about this. So what I'm gonna do, because this is in a cast iron pot, I'm going to just cover this up, turn it off. Because I have an electric range, I'm gonna go ahead and flood off the heat so that the bottom doesn't scald. And yeah, I just let this sit here and vibe until my people get back. When it gets a little bit closer to time, oh, I wish you could smell it. It smells so good. Okay, let's make some biscuits. So let's talk. First and foremost, I gotta give Jill Winger all the credit because this is one of the best cookbooks I've ever purchased. I love this cookbook. If you're looking for good, clean recipes, this is the cookbook for you. I'll link it in the show notes so you can find it. She has a recipe which it's kind of just a basic biscuit recipe, with some, with a fun twist. She calls them cheddar type mountains. Drop biscuits, same difference. It's essentially not a rolled out biscuit, where you're going to have perfect little cut to biscuits. These are more like kind of a rustic style biscuit. And I use this recipe to put on top of my chicken pot pie like casserole. If you're new here, we have 9 children. And then, of course, it's my husband and I. So we have quite a few human beings eating here. One of our children has moved out and is married, but I still have 8 babies at home. And my baby is eating solids now. So I'm throwing in a little extra stuff for him to munch on as well. So 12 to 14 biscuits is not nearly enough for my size of a crew. So we're going to be doubling this recipe. If you grab this cookbook, it's on page 167. Definitely grab this cookbook though. Okay, let's get started. So if you're new to making biscuits, the thing that it's going to say a lot is you're going to cut in your butter. And that's a really normal term you'll hear in pastry making. I like to skip this step from the aspect of I can't stand using a pastry cutter. I will use it if I have to for certain recipes, but this specific recipe, I found a hack. The hack is this. A grater. And I'm going to show you how we do this. So we're going to take this grater and we're going to grate the butter instead of me having to chop it up. Okay, pastry cutter looks like this. So what you essentially would do is take this, put your butter in here, and just... Okay, I use this if I have to. Not a fan, okay? So we're going to go the grating method. Okay, so this recipe calls for 5 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter. I never follow the salted or unsalted rules, so there's that. I always use salted butter. All right, so again, can't rave enough about this butter. Butter makes a difference, guys. It really does. So literally, I'm just taking it and grating it. Listen, you can use a food processor if you want to do it that way. Now you play the game of don't cut your hand on the grater. Okay, we got our butter all cut in, which AKA grated. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my flour. And again, I'm doubling this recipe. So this recipe calls for 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I put in 10. And I'm gonna do 2 cups of flour, but 4 cups of flour, it calls for 2. 2, 4, and 4. Okay. And then it calls for 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So I'm going to be doing 2. So there we go. This was 1/4 of a tablespoon, or 40 cups. So I'm just cutting. It's not a huge exact science. I'm not really that worried about it. I've got garlic powder. It calls for fresh herbs, but I'm going to be using dried. You don't have to put herbs in it. The chives part is like optional. You can honestly put whatever herbs you want to put in there. I really like thyme. Thyme's one of those things that I feel like complements everything that we eat. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to put in, again, I'm just kind of measuring with my heart. We're going to be putting in 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. I reuse jars. This is what you're going to see here. Sorry, y'all. And then a teaspoon of salt. This I can actually measure with my hand because I know how much that is. That's about right. It calls for 1/2 teaspoon, so we're doing a teaspoon. Yeah, okay. So that's all of my... Oh, then I'm going to go ahead and throw my tongue in. It calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh. So I'm going to actually do about 2 teaspoons. Actually, I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons. I'm going to stick to the tablespoons. I like a good herb. And thyme's pretty mild. All right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and mix this together. I don't have a Danish whisk. You should grab one because they're just really versatile, great tools to have. I'm not going to be mixing this part with my hands because I'm trying to keep that butter as cold as possible so that it makes really delicious, cheesy, buttery biscuits. So I'm mixing this in before I put the cheese in. because I want that butter to be all coated with flour and I don't want it to be clumpy in the bottom. And so you can kind of see now that I don't have a lot of butter sitting on the bottom like I was. And this just also just helps kind of cut this in. Whenever you hear the word cut, the words cut in, they're just trying to make tiny little pea-sized pieces of butter typically, or some sort of coarse ground type look. The grater really does a great job, especially for biscuits. If I'm doing some other things, sometimes I don't grate it, but for the most part, pie crust, biscuits, I use my grater. All right, cool. So this is all happy and living its best life. Now I'm gonna shred up my cheese. So I need 2 cups of cheese for mine, 1 cup if you're doing this normally. I'm just gonna shred this in here because I hate dishes and don't want more dishes than necessary. Okay. All right. That is roughly about 2 cups of cheese. This is a really forgiving recipe too. So if you want it a little extra cheesy, you can. I'm gonna go ahead and stir this in again. I'm trying not to put my hands all in it yet because I don't want to melt that butter. All right. So this is kind of what you're looking for. Okay. Kind of mixed in, a little grainy, a little bit fluffy. Okay. This is what you're looking for. So milk is next. 1.5 cups and a little extra. Look at that. Look at that luscious cream on the top. Yum. All right, I'm gonna try to pour on the side where the cream is not sitting. So I'm not just putting all cream in these biscuits. That would be very sad for my milk, but great for my biscuits. All right, so I'm gonna do 1 cup and then 1/2. And then I'm gonna work it and just see how it is. It may not need more, it may. A little over 1/2, so it's probably gonna be just right. Okay, so I'm a person that just kind of feels what I'm doing, and this is feeling a little dry, so I'm gonna add some more milk to it, and then I'm gonna keep mixing. Okay, so I definitely need a little more liquid. It's time to throw this in real quick. The splash you do. This is the part where practice becomes important, because you're gonna start noticing things like this feels kind of dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and add some more liquid to it. Those things are kind of important to learn over time. So I'm going to mix this all up. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and move over to my hands. And we're going to make little drop biscuits. I'm going to throw them on my pan. I typically put this on in cast iron, but because I'm doubling this batch, I'm going to try to get them all baked at one time instead of having to do 2 batches. So 400 degrees in the oven. Let's put these on here. You don't really probably want to watch me do this for the amount of time it takes. So let's just do it really fast. Let's throw these in the oven and check on our soup. So I've turned it off so that it doesn't scald our mouths to the point of wanting to die. Now I can show you how much this has absorbed all this liquid. This is why you have to have more broth than what I just did. So this is a nice base. So I'm going to completely recant on everything that I just said, and I'm going to throw this in with that other broth. So let's get that separated because this is not a soup. This is a casserole. Okay, remember, I'm going to use my absolute favorite funnel set ever in the full wide world. I'll talk about it until Jesus comes back. 4 jars. I think it's sold out right now on Amazon, but I'm still going to link it just so you can save it onto your watch list. But I love it because it has a regular mouth jar, has a wide mouth jar, and then it has this mesh strainer, which is amazing to be able to run things like broth and such through that have can have little particles. Here you go.
That's better, is it?
All the stuff saved out of my broth. I don't care if there's specks of thyme in this because it's a soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour my my this part of my soup in this pot so that I don't splash all over myself. Oh my gosh, so yum. Okay. So you can kind of see how thick this is. Yummy. Okay, I'm gonna take this broth and I'm gonna pour it in here without spilling it. Can I multitask at this level? I think I can. All right. I'm just gonna stir this up, get all the starch from the vegetables and the noodles in here and kind of see where I'm at. Yeah, I think I want a little thicker, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour some more, or thinner, I'm sorry, pour some more. If you reuse the same pot, like I did, make sure you rinse it out so you don't have any like bone fragments in your pot. Yes, this is perfect. Should have stuck to my original plan, silly me. I don't know what I was thinking. I knew better. All right, so here we go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back on, just for a little bit since temperature-wise, I think it's more warm than hot. I'm just gonna turn it on for just a few minutes and get it a little bit warmer, and then we're ready to eat. By the time the biscuits are done, it'll be time to eat. So, winning. I'm gonna clean up this kitchen real quick, and then when the biscuits are ready, we'll be back. All right, it's time to eat. Here's what my drop biscuits came out looking like. Deliciousness. There's something about a lunch in a mug that makes my heart happy. I had check my salt level real quick. The herb is there. Just need a little more salt. It seems like a lot, I know, but it's really not for how big this pot is. This is always the final touches, because I feel like there's always a little something that you got to tweak at the end. That's where it's at. Yes, sir. Those cheddar biscuits are gonna like throw it to the next level. So, grab my mug and make sure I get this broth. And let's just look at these, okay? These are like amazing drop biscuits, and you'll see that they got some good crunch to them. But like, they're ooey and gooey, and they have cheese and deliciousness. They're so good. I love these. Thanks for making soup with me. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you try it. Hope you love it. I've tweaked and played and messed with this recipe over time, so make it your own. Enjoy it. I'm gonna eat some lunch. Like, subscribe, do all the things. See you on the next one. This is winter right here.